Hello, good morning. I hope you're having a wonderful day so far. Today I thought I would do a slightly different video because I haven't really done like a sit down video in a while. I thought I would talk about my experience interning for a magazine in college. So I had mentioned it briefly, I think on Instagram, and I had gotten a couple messages saying that they would be interested if I were to tell like my experience about working at a magazine. And I thought it'd be a great idea because I don't know. I just feel like it'd be interesting. I would have been interested in knowing what someone's experience was like back in high school and college. Sorry if you can hear the cars going outside. It's a motorcycle and they like to be a little loud. I would be interested in hearing what other people's experiences were working in an industry that I thought about going into. So I don't know, it's just fascinating hearing what other people's jobs were and what led them to where they're at. So right now I work for myself. I am a business owner, a small business owner. It is just me, myself, and I that do everything. But I have a sticker stationery shop where I do like planner stickers and things like that. I started in 2015. I've been doing that full time since then, which is amazing. And I'm just really lucky and grateful. This is where I ended up. It's definitely a more profitable career so far than it would have been working in the magazine industry and journalism industry. Potentially, I mean, there's some jobs, but for the most part, I'm really happy with where I ended up. I have so much more creative freedom and control over what I do, which is invaluable to me. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how it all started. So I was in college, obviously, and in San Francisco. I went to San Francisco State University. I got my bachelor's in communications, and I had always dreamed of working for a magazine. I really thought, like when I was a teenager, that I would end up at like 17 Magazine in New York or something. That was like my dream, and I thought that's like, I'm gonna be an editor at like 17 Magazine. Would that be amazing? Like I was like shooting for the stars, you know? And things changed. Like I feel like we don't talk about enough about how careers can change and your ideas of what you want to do can change based on your experiences and where you are in life and like growing up and like and this can happen at any point in life. I really think that like you can pivot at any point and change your career at any point in your life. I think it happens much more often these days. I feel like back in the day, I feel like you kind of picked a career or job and you stuck with it your whole life because it paid well. It was like reliable, dependable. Now I feel like things are very different. I feel like things shift around a lot, and I think people have more careers or more different types of jobs than they used to. But I digress. So I had to internship for credits at my university. I don't know if I had to, if it was a requirement, or if it was just like it's one of the things you could do, and they really recommended it, but I think it might have been required. I think we had to do an internship somewhere, I think, to graduate. So obviously I was like, Mom, look at a magazine. So we didn't have a lot of like fashion-y magazines or like beauty fashion type magazines in San Francisco, not like big name ones that I'd heard of. The main one I think was like 7 by 7, I think that's what it was called. I did not intern there, but I applied to different internships. I ended up getting an interview and then subsequently getting the internship at a travel magazine, which was not where I thought I would like be going. Like I was like, I'm doing a beauty fashion lifestyle. Like that's my jam, you know? But I got the internship and I was like, I'm not going to turn it down. And I really liked the editor that interviewed me. It was a smaller team because it was just her. She was the editor and she ran the entire like editorial side of the magazine there. And then with like a team of interns, there was a publisher obviously and like a few different ad people that got advertisements for the magazine. And like an event coordinator for the magazine. And the way that this magazine worked was it was in all of the hotel rooms, pretty much all of the hotel rooms and hotels in San Francisco. They have different ones for different cities around the world. But I was at the San Francisco like branch, and it was for San Francisco. So it was for tourists coming to San Francisco to kind of like see what there was to offer, new openings, new events happening in the city, best places to shop, best places to check out, or things to do in the city, and just all of that type of stuff to get people to like flip through the magazine in their hotel room, be like, oh, we should do this while we're here. So that is what it was. And because of that, we had a ton of events, which was really cool. We had so many events around the city, and they had like every new like opening for like big restaurants and like galleries and what else did we do? Stores and things like that. They hosted an event with our magazine because they wanted to have all of the concierge come. So we hosted an event with them for all the concierge to come to the events to get to know the new space, the new restaurant, so then the concierge can recommend that to the tourists that are coming and staying at the hotels. So we did so many events, and it was really fun as an intern because we got to work at all these events. They kind of like needed intern help to work at these events because, like I said, it was a very small team. But I was an editorial intern, so I specifically worked underneath the editor and worked with her and wrote a lot of stuff for the magazine and like did a lot of proofreading and things like that. And it was really fun. And we got to do these events, which was like a bonus perk to the internship because they had like really yummy food and drinks, and we'd have to work some of it, but like we didn't have to work all of it. So I don't know. I never really knew what to do with them because I'm not a good small talker. I'm not a good schmoozer. So I never really knew what to do, but they were fun. So we got to go out on a like cruise boat into the San Francisco Bay to watch the Blue Angels fly over for the flight show, because we hosted an event on there with like a full seated dinner, or like lunch. I don't remember what it was. For all the concierge, there was like all the big like hot new like restaurant openings and stuff that were really big. We got to go to like a press preview for it, like a soft opening, I guess, for all the concierge. So we had like the event before it opened, so we got to try a lot of the food places before they opened, which was super cool. I got to go to the editor invited me to go to a press preview at the De Young Museum for the Girl with the Pearl Earring painting. When it first arrived there, they had a press preview day before it was open to the public, and we got to go see it first before the public did, and like sit in on like the press conference for it and everything, and that was like so cool. I think that's probably one of the coolest things I feel like I've ever done. I was so like flattered and excited she asked me to go with her and to like kind of get the ropes and kind of like see how things worked, and she introduced me to a bunch of really like big people in the like journalism and industry in San Francisco, which was really cool because she like knew everyone. So I feel like I'll never forget that. I feel like that was really, really cool. I feel like she really took me under her wing, and it was just a cool experience. So day to day, I would go into the office, like I think it was like 2 or 3 days a week, and I would work on like mostly listings because we had like a lot of listings for all of the different restaurants and shops, and there's always new ones to be added or updated, so we would write those, or I'd update the information on them, proofread them all, and just keep fact checking them and cleaning them up. And then there was one time I got to do, and I'd also help research for feature stories that she was doing. And then there was one time I got to do my own feature story. She like let me have my own feature story for the issue, which was amazing because I got to have like my byline on the cover of the magazine, and like my idea for the article was on the cover of the magazine. And I got to pitch an idea to her. She kind of like shaped it up a bit, and then she really helped me through a lot of it. Like she helped find the photos, like she really like held my hand through it, which was really nice. But it was like difficult because I mean, the journalism industry is no joke, man. Like they are pretty straightforward. Like, no, this is wrong. No, this is wrong. No, all of this is, we don't write like this. Like, this is not how we write. Like, this is the style. You need to do this. Gotta do better. Go fix it up. Like, it's very like to the point. Like, there's no mincing words. It's like, you're doing it wrong. Go fix it. Like, it's not a really coddled industry, which I'm sure most industries probably aren't. But I was just not used to that. I was a little naive baby. So I previously had only worked at like a day spa, so I wasn't really I don't know, used to like the real working world, I guess. But it was also an internship, so it wasn't paid. But then I did end up getting hired on a couple times after to write freelance articles, which was cool. She kind of threw whatever freelance articles she had that she thought would be good for me my way, which was really nice, so I could make some money doing it, and have some like published work that was paid as well, which is nice. So yeah, it was a really cool experience. I think something, I don't know, it just kind of disillusioned me though because of the way magazines are run in general. So the editor is the person that sets the tone for the entire magazine. So they set the format for it. They set the tone. It's their vision. It's their like name to it really. And the style of writing is all set by them. The, like I said, tone of the writing and the way that we write things, the kind of words we use and don't use, the structure of the wording for things is all very different editor to editor from my experience, my limited experience. But I had to conform to learn how to write in her style and her voice, so the magazine sounded consistent. And that is pretty common from my experience. You kind of have to write in like the tone. Also, between newspapers and magazines, I preferred magazines. So when I did do a little bit of writing for a newspaper, our local newspaper in high school, like our local city newspaper, I interned for them as well. And then they paid me a little bit to do a couple like freelance articles, but I wrote a lot for them. And it's very different, obviously, because newspaper writing is all, you're not supposed to have any opinions in there at all, unless it's an opinion piece. So if you're reporting on something, it's all just the facts that you put together in a way that makes sense, that's clear, that's concise, that has no leading opinions, there's no descriptive words that are leading in any way. It's meant to be very neutral. That was the way I was always taught for journalism. And I took a journalism class in college as well, but that's the way I was taught in the newspaper. That's the way I was taught in journalism. Like when you're doing reporting and like news type journalism, that is like the golden rule of journalism for news, was always like, your opinion should not be heard in that at all. It should just be the facts. You're reporting the facts to people so they know what's going on with correct factual information. It was a very big deal to make sure you fact checked and back checked things, and someone else also fact checked to make sure that like you're not reporting incorrect things. But with magazines, it's very different because the language is much more like flowery and flowy and descriptive, but it all has to mean something at the same time. It can't be fluff. That was something I struggled with, that she really honed in on for me, was like, it can't be fluff, but it needs to be descriptive and interesting. And it's not as much, you can have a little more of like an opinion kind of in it, but without like saying your opinion, you know, like you can really describe things more in a way that's more beautiful to read and can help people get a picture of what's going on and the smells of the shops and like the looks of them and the colors and just things that make them like enticing to people and are fun to read. So it's definitely a lot more of like a creative process in that way for me as magazines. And I also loved like the glossy pages and the pictures. Oh, it's just so pretty. I just love all of that, like the bright colors and beautiful photos, like high quality, like glossy printed paper. And I just love that. I love like the storytelling of all of that. And the turnaround, which I loved much more with magazines, was a monthly turnaround, right? So we had to go to press a certain day each month that we had to send it all out. And so in preparation for the next month, it was pretty early on. We were usually about a month ahead. We had to have like the issue done. And then, which is not that different from now. Like I feel like I have to like have things done really early for holidays and stuff. But for the newspaper, oh my gosh, that like overnight grind was so terrifying to me as a like high school kid. I was like, I had to have this article done by tomorrow, like on your desk, and interview this person and like write this whole article by tomorrow. It is 3 PM, sir. Like it was so stressful to me, which I know that like, that's just how that industry is. Like that's very common. And we were even like I think our paper came out bi-weekly, I think it was only twice a week that it came out, or maybe it was 3 times a week. I can't remember. But so it wasn't even an everyday newspaper. I was like shooketh to my core. The anxiety I felt was like, oh my gosh, like I don't think I can do this. It was really fast paced and very difficult. And I remember I had an interview one time of someone who did the artwork for our local county fair. And his was the one that was selected for that year. And he was like, okay, the editor that I was working with at the small newspaper was like, okay, we're going to put you on this one. Here's his phone number, his name, call him, interview him about it. And then I want a photo of him that's like a certain quality and the article that's so whatever, how many words on my desk by tomorrow morning. And it was like noon. And I was like, okay. Like, and I was like 16, I think. I was like 16. I don't think I was even 17 yet. And I was just like, okay. Like I was so overwhelmed. He didn't answer his phone. I was panicked. I was like making sure I had all my questions written out that I wanted to ask and like trying to cover like the whole area of like what, I don't even remember what it was, but I ended up getting it done. I got the photo from him. He was able to send me a photo, and I got the article in on time and got published. So that was great. But I was like, I don't think I'm cut out for this industry. So I really loved that about working at the magazine, was that it was a much like slower pace in that sense. Like you were constantly busy. There's so much to do in that small like window of time, but you had time. You know what I mean? And so for that was nice. But that being said, you also had to put a lot more time into the articles, and they had to be a little bit like deeper, like researched and like photographed, and like you had to have a lot more pictures. I don't know. It was a little bit different, but because you did have so much time. So yeah, I got so much great experience from it. And I one thing also though that kind of I ended up realizing, maybe this isn't the industry for me. I kind of started on that topic and I veered off, but one of them was that like you couldn't write in your own voice, you couldn't write in your own tone. Obviously, you could pitch ideas that you might think are amazing, but obviously like they have to fit in line with what the magazine wants for their image and for their reputation, for the brand they've built up. It all needs to fit together, and you have no control over that unless you are the editor, and you're kind of setting the tone. At least that's how it was at this magazine, which I think that's the case from other ones. But yeah, so you just don't really have any creative like control over it, and you don't have a lot of creative freedom either, because you have to write in their voice, you have to pitch articles, and you can only really write articles that are approved by them that fit with what they want and their tone and everything. So I just feel like that kind of was not like my favorite part about it. It all completely makes sense why, like it absolutely makes sense. That's why they do that, but I just don't know if it was like a great fit for me. And then also, I feel like during that time, I feel like the wool was like pulled off of my eyes. I don't know of what it really was like in the magazine industry, because so much of it is geared towards advertising and advertisers and paid content and things like that. And I'm sure it's different now a little bit, because that was like 10 years ago. I'm sure it's kind of changed a little bit, but it's also probably more because this magazine was free. So it was free to the hotels and everything. So obviously had to really heavily reliant on not sponsored, I guess, like advertisers and just like ads. Like we had 3 people working to get ads for the magazine, and there was 1 editor to write all the content for the magazine. And usually it's a minimum of like 60% ads in magazines, and you can kind of tell just flipping through magazines when you buy one how many ads there are and how many pages of ads there are. There's obviously a lot more ads than there is content in magazines. And from what I've learned, subscriptions don't really pay anything. You buying a magazine at the newsstand doesn't really pay much. Like they don't really rely on that as income, because they really don't make much money off of it. They definitely don't make enough to make the magazine go around. It's really from advertisers is where they make almost all of their money. So now it's probably even more so online. They make most of their money from like online clicks and ads and sponsored content from there, and probably less print, because I know it was already kind of a dying industry, which is unfortunate. But it was just surprising to me how much of things are paid for. And I think also like what was kind of surprising to me, that was when I was working there, and this happens in every magazine from what I've gathered, and even more so in some other magazines, that part of like ad packages and deals for brands and businesses, you can pay to have your product, your brand, your store featured high on a list for an editorial page, or you pay for it to be featured on a gift guide. You can pay to be featured on content that doesn't seem like an ad. Like I'm talking like the articles in the magazine. So for instance, for like a beauty magazine's doing their list of like the editor's favorite beauty like items. Like we scoured the shelves for all our top favorite beauty items that you must have this winter that are my personal favorites I love to use. Those spots can be paid for, if not are always paid for. So like the top ones on those are probably sponsors or like big advertisers for the magazines. It's probably part of their package deal for their ads that they place in the magazine. And once I figured that out, maybe this is common knowledge, I don't know. But like once I figured out that like a lot of this content is just, a lot of this stuff is editorial content that like I would seek out this advice from people, right? Like I'd be like, oh, what is their product? They've tried everything, right? They're like, we get sent thousands of products. These are our favorite. Those are paid for. And like, that to me was just like, oh God, I don't know. Maybe I was being naive, but I genuinely thought that those were like literally their favorite products they tested. And so I trusted that, and I would go out and buy them and try them and be like, oh my God, like, are these like really good products? But they're paid for, so they're not necessarily good at all. So then it all becomes like a walking ad, and it just kind of rubbed me the wrong way once I connected the dots and like put it together, because there's times we do like gift guides and things like that for like, you know, great gifts to pick up while you're in the city. And a lot of those were advertisers that we just kind of like, we're like, we're gonna throw them a bone, or like they paid to be featured in like a gift guide thing of things to pick up, like must grab in like San Francisco and stuff like that. Not all of them, definitely not all of them, but there were definitely a few sprinkled in there that I was like instructed to like put in a few of these are our advertisers. And this is common practice, and that's just part of it. But I struggled with it a little bit because I felt a little guilty about it, because it doesn't say that they are advertisers or sponsors, and say that like a little asterisk that says this is a sponsored product on the list. Maybe things have changed. Maybe now they have to. I don't know. At the time, there was nothing that needs to be said about it. And so I don't know. I haven't really picked up a magazine in a while, to be honest. So I'm not sure if anything's changed, but it's all like paid for. So I just felt a little icky about it. You know, I don't know. I just felt like if people are trusting us for advice on some of the best places to go, the best restaurants to eat at, or the best beauty products to have. We didn't really do beauty stuff like that, but just for like other magazines. I really like was hoping those were like the best places. You know, like our favorite places, or like the ones that we would recommend to people, not just people that had probably advertised with us. And they're good places. They're not like garbage places or anything, or garbage products. It's just those were the ones that were advertised. They're like paying for that spot. So, and as a business owner now, I get so many emails from different like marketing people and brand people that are like, you can be featured in this magazine, and you can be featured in this, but you have to pay for all of that. You have to pay to be featured in a lot of these. Like I don't even know if I don't know if they ever like have people that are just like spontaneously featured, unless they're celebrities. But like brands pay for all of that. I can't talk. They pay to be featured in the background of your favorite TV shows and things like that. They pay a fortune for some shows to have like them holding like a Diet Coke or a water. Anything you see a brand at all at any point in a show, they've paid a fortune to be in that. And it's just like, well, obviously, I guess that one's pretty obvious, but it's just interesting how much of like content we consume has so much like little ads that we don't know, because they're not like an obvious ad. Sometimes they are, like they're really bad at hiding it being an ad, but like sometimes they're just really sneaky about it. And people pay tens of thousands of dollars to have a product in the background shot of a show, just like on a shelf or something. Like I've had messages, like emails from those marketing people that are like, you could be featured on this HBO show, this Hulu show, all these popular shows with these huge celebrities. But the price, they charge like $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 for your product to be in the background for like 2 seconds or something. Like it's all paid for. I don't know. So I just got a little just disillusioned, I guess maybe would be the word, for the magazine industry, because I was like, oh my gosh. And then imagine what it's like at like magazines that do like beauty lifestyle, because that's all just like products. So I don't know. I just didn't feel right about it. It just didn't sit well with me. And I didn't really like that aspect of it. I love the writing. I don't know. So it's funny because the article I had pitched that I ended up getting accepted with some like modifications, was like free and cheap things to do in San Francisco, like the best like free and cheap things to do in the city, because I was a college student, so I was doing those things. And I felt like it was such a good resource to have all of like the free festivals, free art days, the free days when you're in the city, because traveling is so expensive. And like I kind of naively pitched it. She eventually let me do the article. She was so nice, and she was really like, okay, yeah, like encouraging, eventually for when they like needed probably a feature story to do. She's like, okay, well that could be like I think it was the April feature or something. So I had worked on it for a couple months leading up to like our press deadline, our press deadline for that. But it's probably like the opposite of what they would do, because like you're not going to make money off of sponsors and like advertisers if it's free. if they're like free things you can do. But I think there's ways we could work in a few different like museums or something, or like other places that paid, but they have like free days that they do, but they're like advertisers with us, or like free winery tours or something, because the wineries paid a lot to be featured in these, because they always want to get people up to like Napa and Sonoma to go to the wineries. They paid a lot. Those are some of the biggest advertisers that if I remember correctly. So yeah, that was kind of my experience working there. I interned for 9 months, which was a long time. I just like didn't want to leave because I really enjoyed it. Unfortunately, they had such a small budget. She was not able to get the, I don't know. She mentioned to me that she was going to try to see if they could get enough to open up another position there, so I could like get hired on, is kind of what was implied. But the higher ups that own all of the branches, like corporate, were not able to or willing to give the budget there to hire an extra person. So it was just her stuck doing that with the team of interns. And so yeah, so I don't know, but it was a great experience. It was definitely put me so much out of my comfort zone. I'm really glad I did it. It definitely altered the course for me a little bit. I think like I tried to get into magazine stuff after that, after I graduated college. It just never panned out. No one hired me. It wasn't a good time to be like trying to get a job in San Francisco if you weren't in tech. And I ended up where I ended up here, and I'm really grateful for that. So I kind of just got a little disillusioned by all of the magazine industry a little bit. So I realized it might not be the best fit for me. It just felt a little bit less authentic than I thought it was or would be. And so it just wasn't really the right fit for me. So I love what I do now, and I feel so blessed because I still get to do like the photos and storytelling through like the glossy photos of the sticker kits and stuff. And I get to be my own creative director, and I get to like choose where I want to go with things and like create a vision to come to life, and not have to fall in line to someone else's vision. And that's been the most incredible thing. Like, this is the best place I could have ended up for me career-wise. And I absolutely love it. So that is my long-winded story about my experience at working at a magazine. I think that's everything pretty much. I mean, it was so long ago, but I do remember I loved working. So we were like down in like the financial district. We were like down the street, like across the way from the, not Coit Tower. We were down the way from Coit Tower, but Transamerica Pyramid. We were like catty corner to the Transamerica Pyramid, and we were like pretty high up, so like the view of the city was so pretty. I felt so grown up and like, look at, I made it, because like I grew up in a really small town, and then like moving to San Francisco was huge because it was like our school, like the amount of students that went to our school was like 3 or 4 times the amount of my entire city growing up as a kid. So like just our school alone, school population was 3 to 4 times our entire city growing up, which was mind-boggling to me. Like, it was mind-boggling. So living in a city that big, and like it was just wild. And then being able to experience all of that and like do all these cool like press openings at the De Young Museum, and go to all of these like soft openings for restaurants and Calvin Klein, and like Macy's fashion show events that they had there to like celebrate the start of the season, and Union Square at the ice skating rinks that we got to go to, the Embarcadero ice skating rink. We had an event on that was just the whole rink just to ourselves, with like catered like food from all these really amazing local places. And it was just such cool experiences that I never would have gotten, like being able to go out on like a cruise through the San Francisco Bay watching the Blue Angels fly over. Like, it was just such cool experiences that I never would have been able to have access to before. And I am forever just like grateful for that it just like, it was just so cool. So I really loved it. I loved working with the editor. She's so amazing. She's so smart. I admire her so much. I always looked up to her so much. And like, she really was like very, very kind, considering how like unkind a lot of times people in that industry are. And she was really, really great and amazing and taught me so much. And I took away a lot that I still use today for my business. And it was just really cool. And I learned a lot of like social media stuff there from being around the other interns. That like, we had a social media intern, which she really just did social media like for them. So I'm not really sure how that worked out. I think she might have been getting paid from them, but so I got to work with her a little bit, and I learned how to do some social media from her, which then pivoted me to doing social media for a couple of her clients that she paid me for. And then in turn, led me to do social media for my parents' companies because they needed people to do it and I had experience doing it. And then that in turn led me to where I am now. So I was able to take all of the things I learned from that place and college in general and life and just experiences and get me to where I am. So I'm very grateful for that experience. And I think it worked out that I didn't get a job there. Just because now, like, it led me to do all the things I need to do there on in life to get to where I need to be today. So that has been my experience working at magazine. The only other place I really worked, like I said, I interned for a little bit at a local newspaper growing up, like in high school. There's not a lot about that, but I could do a video about that if you want. Or my only other job I really had was working at a day spa. I was a receptionist at a day spa for like a year or so in San Francisco, and West Portal specifically. Oh, I love West Portal. I worked there every day. I loved it while I was in college. So I only did part-time, but I definitely worked a lot of shifts. So I loved it. It was such a great little job. But let me know if you're interested in any story about that. I'm pretty sure it was haunted, so I feel like I have a little bit of ghost stories from there too, because I was there alone a lot of the time. Like, we had like opening shift and closing shift. You either worked one or the other, so there were long shifts and you were there alone for most of it, besides like the clients coming in and then like the estheticians and massage therapists coming in occasionally. But we like ran it basically on our own because the manager was not there really ever. She was always like available by phone and she'd pop in occasionally and she'd work shifts as well. But we were just kind of like running it ourselves while we were there, which also gave me a lot of good experience, and how to make the spa water, because I made the spa water every morning when I would open. So that is it for my experience though working at a magazine in San Francisco. Let me know if you have any questions down below. I hope it was interesting, and I'm also curious of what jobs you've had. I love hearing about people's jobs, like what jobs they've had, their experience at jobs. It's so fascinating to me. I love knowing what people do in like a work day for them. Like, I'm just so fascinated by it. So let me know what jobs you've had down below because I'm very curious. And I hope you're having a wonderful day, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.